Welcome back to the state of menopause in the world today, everybody. This is Menopause Taylor. Glad to join you again, and I hope you are ready for some more information on options to prevent a heart attack, because I cover everything about menopause in my broadcast, and I'm in the midst of a huge unit on heart attack, and I have given you podcast after podcast on things pertaining to heart attacks. And so we are pretty much smack dab in the middle of it. And I am just making sure you know everything you need to know in order to prevent one. And I started way back weeks and weeks ago. And each podcast has built on the foundation of the previous one. So if you've been with me for any length of time listening to my podcasts, you know that my entire education works that way. To benefit yourself, you really need to listen to these podcasts in order. And if you don't like doing that, go to my YouTube channel, which is Menopause Taylor, and watch the videos in order. Whatever you do, just get an education that is in order. I offer all management options in all categories. So I've already given you the management options for preventing a heart attack in the diet and lifestyle categories. And today, I'm going to give you the management options in the vitamin, mineral, and supplement category. Now, if you have my book, all of chapter 28 is on heart attack. And the section entitled Vitamin Mineral Options is the one that we're going to be addressing today. If you're fond of managing your menopause with alternative or complementary measures, this is the podcast for you. If you just want to know which are the best vitamins, minerals, and supplements for your heart, this is the podcast for you. And if you're a regular listener, you've seen how everything I teach makes sense. And by listening to these podcasts in order, you're able to connect the dots and really use the information wisely. So you'll see that logic in everything that you get from me from an educational standpoint. So what I'll do now is I'll just go through and discuss each of the vitamins, minerals, or supplements that can help reduce your risk of a heart attack. I'm going to address the minerals first because they are the most important for your heart. And I'm going to start with calcium, but I'm going to pair it with magnesium. And I'm pairing them because your body uses them together to benefit your heart. Balancing them is very, very important. Calcium and magnesium function together in regulating the electrical activity of your heart. And the proper ratio of calcium to magnesium for your heart is 1-to-1 or 2-to-1. The proper dosage of calcium for your heart is 400 to 1200 milligrams daily. Now, be sure to understand that this is not an adequate dosage of calcium for your bones. You learned in previous podcasts that you need 1500 milligrams of calcium daily for your bones. And you also learned that calcium does not prevent osteoporosis. See, you'll find that I am very, very specific about the dosages and details of each management option as it pertains to each particular disease. So when it comes to calcium, most women need more, not less. So you're much better off taking too much than too little. That means it's probably best to just take the calcium dosage that is necessary for your bones, and it will suffice for your heart. And that's 1500 milligrams daily. But few women actually get more than 400 milligrams of calcium from their diets. And this is primarily because women mistakenly believe that the best source of calcium is dairy products, and that's just not true. The best sources of calcium are green leafy veggies. And the other important thing about calcium is that you need to take it in divided doses. Now, what does that mean? Well, while you need 1500 milligrams of calcium per day, your body is not able to absorb all 1500 milligrams at one time. Your body can only absorb about 500 at a time. So instead of taking the 1,500 milligrams as a single dose, you have to divide it into 3 separate doses. So 1,500 milligrams of calcium in divided doses would be 500 milligrams in the morning, 500 milligrams at midday, and 500 milligrams in the evening. Now for magnesium. The proper dosage of magnesium is 400 to 1,000 milligrams daily. And despite the fact that it's easy to get enough magnesium from your diet, many women are magnesium deficient. The foods that are rich in magnesium include unpolished grains, nuts, and green leafy vegetables. But since so much food is processed, the magnesium is stripped right out of the food. Milk, meat, and starchy foods contain very little magnesium, and all processed foods contain none at all. So if you don't eat enough magnesium-rich foods, you should take a supplement. But always know that getting any kind of vitamin, mineral, or supplement from your diet, from your food, is way, 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 way better than ever getting it out of a bottle. Oh, and if you use antacids for indigestion a lot, that can cause a deficiency in magnesium. So the calcium to magnesium ratio is a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 ratio. And you'll find some products that contain both calcium and magnesium in them, but just be sure that the ratio between them is correct. Next, we have potassium and sodium. Like calcium and magnesium, these two go together, and they have a lot to do with your blood pressure. And like calcium and magnesium, the important thing is the ratio between them. And notice that the order here is potassium first and sodium second. The necessary ratio between potassium and sodium for preventing a heart attack is 5-to-1. And guess what the average ratio is for most people? It's way off. The typical average potassium to sodium ratio is not 5-to-1, it's 1-to-2. This is one of the reasons high blood pressure is so common. And as you'll recall from previous podcasts, high blood pressure is one of the risk factors for a heart attack. And so the reason so many people are so far off balance with their potassium to sodium ratio is because fast foods and processed foods contain loads and loads and loads of sodium. More and more foods are becoming more and more processed and loaded with more and more sodium. And unfortunately, processed foods are cheaper than unprocessed foods. If you look at food labels, you'll be shocked at how high the sodium contents are. And you will rarely see potassium listed at all because there isn't any in most foods. And, that's actually okay because you probably don't need more potassium. What you need is less sodium. The recommended daily allowance of sodium is less than 1,500 milligrams, but most people get well over 3,400 milligrams daily. It's terrible. The other problem is that for some strange reason, people seem to think of bananas as a great source of potassium, but they aren't. With regard to potassium content, bananas are number 1,611 in the list of foods that contain potassium. Even Reese's Pieces have more potassium than bananas do. You'd have to eat a dozen bananas a day to get the recommended daily intake of potassium. The foods with the highest potassium content are unprocessed plant foods. Before food processing became commonplace, humans consumed 10,000 milligrams of potassium daily. But now, most people get less than the daily recommended intake of 4,700 milligrams. And upping your potassium intake can prevent heart attack and stroke. If you increase your potassium by only 1,640 milligrams per day, you can decrease your risk of stroke by 21%. I would bet that increasing potassium intake is the most important thing for most people. Okay, that's it for the minerals. And next is vitamins. And the first are the B vitamins. Now, there are a lot of B vitamins that are important for preventing a heart attack. They are vitamin B3, B6, B9, and B12. Just remember 3, 6, 9, 12. And starting with vitamin B3, another name for vitamin B3 is niacin. Niacin improves all the different types of lipids in your body. It increases your healthy HDL and decreases your cholesterol, triglycerides, and lousy LDL. The problem with niacin is that the dosage necessary to achieve all these great effects on your lipids and reduce your risk of a heart attack is 1.5 to 3 grams daily. But that dosage also causes extreme side effects, the most common and significant of which are flushing, liver damage, increased blood glucose levels, and aggravation of gout. And then there are the other B vitamins, 6, 9, and 12. They all have other names, but interestingly, most people only know the name of vitamin B9, which is folate. Vitamin B6 is pyridoxine, and vitamin B12 is cobalamin. But I'll just use their numbers. Vitamins B6, 9, and 12 work together, and they all decrease your risk of a heart attack. So if you use supplements, you can just take all three as a vitamin B complex. But the individual dosages of those three vitamins for preventing a heart attack are 40 to 80 milligrams daily for vitamin B6, 400 to 800 milligrams daily for vitamin B9, and 20 micrograms daily for vitamin B12. And the foods with the highest levels of vitamins B6, 9, and 12 are dark green leafy vegetables, whole grain cereals, beans, and citrus fruit. Take note of the fact that I have said something about green leafy vegetables already about 4 times in this short podcast. There's something to the green leafy vegetables. Make sure you realize that. Vitamin B12 is found in meat and eggs. That's why vegans are deficient in vitamin B12. But vitamins B6 and B9 come from plant products. Now, remember in previous podcasts when I showed you that great big list of risk factors for a heart attack? I've given you a list of risk factors for heart attack, and I'll be giving you lists of risk factors for every disease that you can imagine that we cover. One of the risk factors was high homocysteine level. And high homocysteine is an amino acid that's found only in animal products. About 10% of the population may have a genetic predisposition for a high homocysteine level, but the vast majority of people have a high level because of diets high in animal fat. I'm bringing this up now because one of the most common reasons for a high homocysteine level is low levels of vitamin B3, 6, and 9. And you see how they're connected? So if you have lots of meat in your diet, you have low B3, 6, 9, and 12, and B3, 6, and 9. And if you eat very little meat, you are probably deficient in vitamin B12. And menopause increases your homocysteine level too. So if you've never ever checked your homocysteine level before, maybe you should. A level over 15 micromoles per liter is considered high risk